Today we are graphing sine and cosine and checking it out. Look, here's the bottom line. Let's just cut to the chase, shall we? If I want to graph the sine function, we've been working with the unit circle a lot, but this is another way to look at sine and cosine. Now, sine and cosine have a maximum value of 1 and a minimum value of -1, the top and bottom of your unit circle. On the unit circle, a complete revolution is 2 pi, and before it starts to repeat. So that turns out to be the period of the sine and cosine function is 2 pi. So when you're graphing your basic sine or cosine function, for example, if you're going to graph y equals sine x, starting with a period of 2 pi is a good way to go. So here's 2 pi. Right in the middle will be pi. Half of that will be pi over 2, and in between these two will be 3 pi over 2. This is your classic sine graph. So some things you should just go ahead and memorize about the graph of the sine function is the sine function starts here at 0, 0. It goes through the origin. And what it does is it goes up, it goes down, and back to the start again. So at pi over 2, it's up at 1. At pi, it's back down to the axis. And then at 3 pi over 2, it's down at -1. And then at 2 pi, it's back up again. So these are the 5 key points that you're always going to have. And then you just draw your curve like this. Alright, and kabam, we've just graphed the sine function. Alright, that took like 30 seconds, right? Now let's talk about the cosine function. The cosine function does not start at the origin. Instead, the cosine function starts up high. Alright, it starts at 1. And then it goes down, alright, to its low point at pi, and then it comes back up. Alright, so between 0 and 2 pi, cosine forms this sort of a bowl shape. Okay, now if you kept going with either one of these functions, it just continues this pattern down, up, down, up, down, up. It continues. But for now, I want you to focus on between 0 and 2 pi, because of course once you've got that, you could continue it as long as you wanted to. So cosine starts high and sine starts low. Okay, so here they are sort of together on one grid. Together they would look like this. Okay, so that's the backbone of our lesson today. So if I want to graph the sine function and they give me some random period, some random interval, I should say, not period, I'm supposed to graph it from -3 pi over 2 to 2 pi. Well, let's start with 0 to 2 pi, which is in here, right? So let's let 2 pi be all the way over here at the end. So here's 2 pi. That was a little messy. That's bothering me. Can I clean it up? Alright, so there's 2 pi. Halfway down, that's going to be pi. Halfway again, that's going to be pi over 2. And halfway between these will be 3 pi over 2. So let's start by doing what we practiced and just graph this part. I guess we're going to need a 1 and a -1 in here somewhere. Okay, so the sine function starts at the origin, as we discussed, and it goes up, down, and back up again. So at pi over 2, it's at a high, and then it's back at pi, and then it's down at 3 pi over 2, and then it's back at 2 pi. So here's what we have so far for the sine function. Okay, now, but we need some extra. We need to go to negative 3 pi over 2. Now we're talking about multiples of pi over 2, so you know, just keep an eye on about this size right here. So here's negative 1 pi over 2, negative 2 pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 2. Alright, so this is negative pi over 2. Negative 2 pi over 2, of course, skirt, is negative pi. Let me clean that up. Alright, I mean, I guess it's just a mirror image of what's going on over here, so I don't have to think about it that hard. So, pi over 2, negative pi over 2. Pi, negative pi. 3 pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 2. Mirror images. And the sine function will continue its pattern. So just like it was up high and then down, so it's going to come down low and then swoop back up, and then next it'll be up high again. It just will continue the wave that it was doing before. So it's going to be doing this type of a deal. And through here, and then kabam. So there you go. Let's zoom out and take a look at it. So here is your sine function from negative 3 pi over 2 to 2 pi. Don't forget to label the axes. There's my x and there's my y. Alright, let's do it again for number 2. Alright, the cosine function. Alright, we're supposed to graph the cosine function from 3 pi to 8 pi. Remember when we graphed the cosine function a moment ago? It's the pink one. Notice how the cosine function starts off high. Now, where is it at multiples of pi? At 1 pi it's low. At 2 pi it's high. What do you think it'll be doing at 3 pi? It'll be low again. Alright, I've prepared a really long graph. Alright, scrolls all the way over here, so you can get an even better feel for how the cosine function operates. You understand, let's call this 1 and this is negative 1. You understand that cosine starts off high, it hits here and it goes low. It hits here and it goes high. Alright, so from 0 to 2 pi, it does this sort of a valley. Alright, but then it continues that pattern after that. So let me just switch to white and just show the pattern continuing. Okay, so here it's low at pi and high at 2 pi. And then it's going to pass through here and be low at 3 pi, high at 4 pi, low at 5 pi, high at 6 pi. Okay, it'll be low at 7 pi, high at 8 pi. So what's the pattern here? So it's at a low at 1, 3, 5, 7. So it seems to be low at all the odds, and it's at a high at 2, 4, 6, 8. Alright, so the cosine function y equals cosine x is low at odd multiples of pi, and it's high at even multiples of pi. Alright, keep that in mind. Alright, check out how I put this cool little break in the line, because you know how we usually were starting from 0, 0, but I wanted to skip ahead to where I'm supposed to start graphing here at 3 pi. So that's what this little break is all about. Fast forward. Now I've stretched it out. because we need to get all the way to 8 pi. So here you have it. So we're going to need some marks in between here though, and we're going to need to label these. Alright, these lines in the middle are all pi over 2's, alright, because every jump 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi, that's a whole pi. So these are half pi's, pi over 2. So to label these, it would be useful to know how many pi over 2's they are. So for example, 3 pi over 1, if I wanted to convert that into something over 2, you know, I would have to multiply by 2. Alright, it's like making like denominators. So this would be the same thing as 6 pi over 2. Why am I mentioning that? So if you understand that 3 pi is the same thing as 6 pi over 2, then you can sort of start counting from there. So this is 6 pi over 2, this will be 7 pi over 2, 8 pi over 2. It's useful just to verify your thought process. 8 pi over 2, yep, 8 divided by 2 is 4, so that makes sense. Alright, I'm not going to do that every time, just once. So we have 7 pi over 2, 8 pi over 2, 9 pi over 2, 10 pi over 2, 11 pi over 2, 12 pi over 2, 13 pi over 2, 14 pi over 2, 15 pi over 2. Okay, so putting that first one there in terms of pi over 2 allows me to count up. Okay, so now everything's nice and labeled. And what did I say about cosine? It's at the even ones it's high, and at the odd ones it's low. Okay, so my cosine function, at 3 pi it should be at -1, and then at 4 pi it should be at +1, 5 pi -1, 6 pi +1, 7 pi -1, 8 pi +1. Okay, and of course it's going to hit the intercepts in between. Alright, the x-intercepts are going to hit right at these pi over 2's. So all those dots are really showing you exactly what's going to happen right now. So all we have to do is draw them. This is hard to do. Okay, let me try it from the side. Okay, got a little dented and bent in here, but you get the idea. This is what your cosine function is going to look like from 3 pi all the way to 8 pi, and everything's labeled up, except for I almost forgot to label my x and y axis. That's all. Alright, this over here is my y-axis, and of course this is my x-axis. Alright, for number 3 we're graphing sine x, okay, for this interval right here. So let's go. Alright, so here's 1 and here is -1. Let's see. Here is my, alright, I'm just going to let this be pi and 2 pi and 3 pi. Okay, so 11 pi over 2. 11 over 2 is equal to 5.5. Okay, so I need to get up to 5.5 pi. So let's just go to 6 and then I'll just know to stop short. So here's 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, and if I go to 6 pi, that'll be more than enough. Okay, based on the 5.5 pi, 5.5 pi. Alright, so yeah, let's get all those pi over 2's in there. So bam, 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 and bam. So let's get them in here. So I think I'll make these blue though. So this is 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, 6 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2, 8 pi over 2, 9 pi over 2, 10 pi over 2, 11 pi over 2. Okay, so we are supposed to, we're supposed to end up right here, and we're supposed to start out right here. Now, however, let us remember that the sine function truly starts here at the origin, and then it goes up to 1. Alright, I'm making this pretty tall, am I not? I think I'll make it a little shorter. It felt a little too tall to me. Okay, I'm going to do it a little bit more like this. So there's my 1, there's my -1. So I'm doing this in yellow because I'm not really counting this part. So we know that the sine function starts off at the origin, and then it goes up, and then it comes down, and then it comes down, and then it comes back up. So, this is what the sine function looks like between 0 and 2 pi. Now, we're supposed to start from here, though. So I'm going to do that. So that's why I did it in yellow, so I can ignore it easily and pick up the pattern from here. Okay, and then the pattern just continues, so it's going to go up, and it's going to hit at the odd there, and it's going to go down and back and up and back. So every time it hits an even one, an even multiple pi, it's on the way up. When it hits an odd, it's on its way down. And then here I'm supposed to stop at 11 pi over 2, and that's going to end right here on a down note. Okay, so here I started at pi like I'm supposed to, and I'm ending at 11 pi over 2. So here I go, just drawing the rest of these curves. Okay, and there it is. We dominated it. I guess we don't need that yellow dot anymore. And that was the y-axis, and this was the x-axis. Okay. Alright, last one, number 4. We're back to the cosine function, but we are supposed to start at -3 pi, so I'm just going to do that, and we're supposed to get all the way to pi over 2. So if this is -3 pi, then this will be -2 pi, and this will be -pi, and then this would be 0, and then this would be pi, and that's already passed as far as I need to go. So if this is 0, I should probably put a full axis here. Alright, so there's my axis going from +1 to -1, and I've added marks in between for the half pi's. So this is going to be positive pi over 2, and this is negative pi over 2, and -2 pi over 2, -3 pi over 2, -4 pi over 2, -5 pi over 2. Now the main thing you remember about the cosine function in terms of graphing it, if you don't remember anything else, remember that at 0, the cosine function starts off high. And then from there, it's easy to follow the pattern because it's going to go down and pass through this point and then go to its low point over there. But you know, we're not supposed to go that far anyway. But on the left-hand side, it's going to do the same thing. It passes through here and then goes to a low, and then passes through here and goes up to a high, and then passes through here and then goes to a low. Alright, so then that's why it's going to do like this. And there it is. That's what number 4 will look like. Here endeth the lesson.